The stars looked different this far from Earth. Captain Lee Taman stood on the bridge of the infinite horizon, watching the view screen display thousands of points of light that no human had ever seen before. His crew had been traveling for 3 months, pushing their new faster-than-light drive to its limits. They were explorers, the first humans to venture beyond the familiar territories of the solar system. Taman was a military man, trained for discipline and protocol. He had short black hair that was always neat, a clean uniform, and a reputation for following orders. But he also had something else. He had curiosity. That curiosity had made him volunteer for this mission when others had refused, calling it too dangerous, too uncertain. "Captain, we're detecting something unusual," said Kim Nari from her station. She was the chief engineer, a woman in her early 30s with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. Her fingers moved across her console with practiced ease. "There's a structure orbiting the gas giant. It's massive." Taman moved closer to her station. "Show me." The view screen changed. What appeared made everyone on the bridge fall silent. It was a palace. There was no other word for it. The structure floated in space like something from a dream, all crystalline spires and flowing curves that seemed impossible. It was easily 5 times the size of their ship, and it glowed with a faint inner light. "Is it a ship?" asked Dr. Park Minho, the xenobiologist. He was younger than Taman, enthusiastic about everything, and had been hoping to find alien life since the mission began. "It has no power signature," Nari said, frowning at her readings. "No engines firing, no communications, nothing. It's just drifting." Taman made a decision. "We're going to investigate. Prepare a boarding team." "Sir, protocol says we should report back to Earth Command first," Nari said carefully. She wasn't challenging him, just reminding him of the rules. "If we wait for approval, it'll take months for the message to reach Earth and the response to come back," Taman replied. "This is why we're here. To explore. To discover. Prepare the team." 2 hours later, Taman led a small group through the airlock and into the alien structure. The interior was breathtaking. Gardens filled with crystal plants grew in vast chambers, their surfaces catching light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The architecture defied logic, with staircases that curved in impossible directions and rooms that seemed larger inside than they should be. "This is incredible," Minho whispered, scanning everything with his instruments. "The biological readings are off the charts. These crystal structures, they're alive somehow." They moved deeper into the palace ship, following corridors lined with strange symbols and artwork. Taman saw images of beings that were humanoid but clearly not human. They were tall and elegant, with elongated features and skin that seemed to shimmer in the pictures. "The crew," he said quietly. "Where are they?" They found their answer in a large chamber that could only be described as a throne room. The space was circular, with a high domed ceiling covered in what looked like stars. In the center, standing perfectly still, was a figure in ceremonial armor. She was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that seemed to glow from within like captured starlight. Her armor was made of the same crystal material as the gardens, fitted perfectly to her form, but it was her face that made Taman forget to breathe. She had large eyes that held depths of color he couldn't name, features that were alien yet somehow achingly beautiful, and an expression of such profound sadness that it hurt to look at. Behind her transparent faceplate, he could see her more clearly. She was young, or at least seemed young, though who knew how alien age worked. Her hair was long and moved slightly as if underwater. Though there was no water, she stood like a statue, like she had been waiting there for a very long time. "Is she alive?" Nari asked from behind Taman. Minho checked his scanner. "Yes, life signs are strong. She's just standing there." Taman stepped forward slowly, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. The alien princess, because that's what she had to be based on the throne room, watched him approach. Her eyes tracked his movement, but she didn't move otherwise. "Hello," Taman said, knowing she probably couldn't understand him. "We're from Earth. We come in peace." The princess tilted her head slightly, studying him the way someone might study an interesting insect. Then she spoke, and her voice was like music, like wind chimes and distant bells. The words meant nothing to Taman, but the sound was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard. "I've never seen such beauty," he whispered, the words escaping before he could stop them. The princess's expression changed. Something flickered across her face, an emotion he couldn't read. Then she turned away from him, presenting her back, her posture rigid and formal. She spoke again, her voice colder now, and gestured to the walls around them. Taman looked where she pointed. The walls were covered in images, and as he studied them, his stomach dropped. They showed the crystal beings everywhere, in ships, in cities, in gardens. Then the images changed. They showed the beings falling, sick, dying. Empty ships. Empty cities. The story was clear even without words. A plague, Minho said softly. She's the last one. The princess stood with her back to them, her shoulders straight despite the weight of being the sole survivor of her entire species. Taman realized his mistake. He had complimented her appearance when he should have shown respect for her loss, for her position, for everything she had endured. "I'm sorry," he said, though he knew she couldn't understand. "We'll help you if we can." The princess didn't turn around, but she lowered her head slightly. It might have been acknowledgement. It might have been dismissal. Taman couldn't tell. "We need to report this to Earth Command," Nari said. "This is first contact. This changes everything." Taman nodded, but he couldn't take his eyes off the princess. She stood alone in her throne room, surrounded by the ghosts of her people, and he wondered what it must be like to be the last. "The absolute last. No more of your kind anywhere in the universe, sir. What do we do?" asked one of the security officers. "We stay," Taman said. "We don't leave her alone." "Not yet." The princess finally turned back to face them. She walked to a wall panel and touched it with fingers that were longer than human fingers, more delicate. The panel lit up, showing star charts and navigation data that scrolled past too fast to follow. She was showing them something, trying to communicate despite the language barrier. Taman stepped closer, trying to understand. The princess watched him, and for just a moment their eyes met. In that moment, Taman saw intelligence, pain, hope, and a question. The same question he had. Could two species so different find a way to understand each other? "We'll find a way to talk," he promised her. "We'll figure this out together." The princess studied his face for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her hand over her heart in a gesture that seemed almost human, almost universal. Then she pointed at him and back at herself, different but not so different that understanding was impossible. It was a beginning. 3 days passed since they found the princess. The Infinite Horizon docked with the palace ship, creating a physical connection between human and alien technology. The crews worked carefully, respectfully, always aware that they were guests in what amounted to a tomb. The princess, whom they had started calling Yura after Taman heard her say what sounded like that word when pointing to herself, moved through her ship like a ghost. She allowed the humans to explore, to study, to learn, but she kept her distance, especially from Taman. Han Jiwoo, the ship's linguist, had set up a workspace in one of the palace ship's smaller chambers. She was a patient woman in her late 20s, someone who had learned 12 Earth languages and was now tackling her 13th from beyond the stars. Papers and digital screens surrounded her, filled with alien symbols and her attempts to decode them. "It's fascinating," Jiwoo told Taman when he came to check on her progress. "The Velian language, that's what I'm calling it, based on some symbols. It's both mathematical and artistic. See these curves? They're not just letters. They're musical notes and equations at the same time." Taman looked at the symbols, but they meant nothing to him. "Can you translate?" "Eventually, maybe. But Captain, language isn't just words. It's culture. It's context. I can tell you what a word means, but not what it really means, if that makes sense." It didn't, but Taman trusted her to do her job. He had other concerns. Earth Command had responded to their first contact report with clear orders. Secure the alien technology, learn everything possible, bring the alien back to Earth for study. The orders made him uncomfortable, like Yura was a specimen instead of a person. Kim Nari had been studying the palace ship's systems with the help of her engineering team. She found Taman in the human ship's mess hall eating a late dinner. "You need to see what I found," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "This ship, Captain, it's beyond anything we have. The power systems alone could revolutionize human space travel. And the medical bay, Minho thinks it could cure diseases we haven't even discovered yet." "That's good news," Taman said, though his voice was flat. Nari studied his face. "You're worried about the orders from Earth Command. They want us to take everything. Including her. She's alone, Captain. Maybe Earth would be good for her. She'd have people around her, resources, support. Or she'd be a prisoner in a research facility," Taman replied. He pushed his food around his plate. "She's not a thing to be taken. She's royalty of an entire civilization. A dead civilization, Nari said gently. I'm not being cruel, just factual. Whatever she was, she's now a refugee, and refugees need help. Taman knew she was right, but it still felt wrong. He had been spending time with Yura, trying to communicate through gestures and simple mathematics. He had learned that she was curious about humans, that she found their music interesting, that she mourned her people with a depth that was visible in every movement she made. He had also learned that she was intelligent, possibly more intelligent than anyone on his ship. She had started learning human language by watching their interactions, picking up words and phrases at an incredible rate. She still couldn't speak it, but she understood more than they realized. Choi Soman, one of the security officers, had a different view. She cornered Taman after his shift ended. Captain, permission to speak freely? Granted. I don't trust her. The princess. We don't know why her people died. What if it wasn't a plague? What if it was war, and she's the last one because she survived what she did to others? Taman had considered this. Minho found no evidence of weapons on this ship. It's a palace, not a warship. That we can recognize, Soman countered. Sir, I'm not saying we should be cruel. I'm saying we should be careful. We're assuming she's peaceful because she looks sad and doesn't fight back. But we don't really know anything about her. She was right to be cautious. Taman assigned her to maintain security protocols, but he personally didn't believe Yura was a threat. There was something in her eyes, something that transcended species. It was grief, pure and simple. That evening, Taman found Yura in the crystal gardens. She spent most of her time there, tending to the crystalline plants that somehow continued to grow despite everything. He had brought something with him, a small device that played music. Yura looked up when he entered. She had removed her armor and wore a simpler garment that still seemed impossibly elegant. Without the armor, she looked more fragile, more real. Taman held up the music player and pressed play. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata filled the garden, the piano notes echoing off the crystal surfaces. It was his favorite piece, something that always calmed him. Yura's reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened and she moved closer to the device. She held out her hand and Taman placed the player in her palm. She lifted it close to her face, studying it while the music played. Then she closed her eyes and listened. When the piece ended, Yura looked at him. She touched her chest, then pointed at the player, then at him. Then she made a gesture that he had come to recognize as meaning understanding or connection. She understood what he was trying to do. Share something human, something beautiful to bridge the gap between them. Yura set down the music player carefully. Then she walked to a wall panel and activated it. The ceiling of the garden chamber changed, becoming transparent. Above them, stars wheeled past as the palace ship orbited the gas giant. But it wasn't just stars. Colors began to flow across the transparent ceiling, aurora-like patterns that pulsed and shifted. Then sound emerged, but it wasn't like human music. It was deeper, more complex, like the universe itself was singing. The colors matched the sounds, creating a symphony of light and noise that was both alien and achingly beautiful. Yura turned to him and made that gesture, again. Understanding. Connection. She was sharing her people's. Taman sat down in the garden, overwhelmed. Yura sat near him, not too close, maintaining the distance she always kept. But they sat together, human and alien, and listened to the star song while colors painted the space above them. Later, after the music ended and Yura had retreated to her private quarters, Jiwoo found Taman still in the garden. I've been making progress, she said, excited. I can translate basic concepts now. And Captain, I found something in the ship's logs. What? The word she said when you first saw her, when you called her beautiful. I translated it. It means violation of protocol or maybe insult to rank. In Velian culture, you don't compliment royalty's appearance before earning their trust. It reduces them to objects. Taman felt his stomach drop. I insulted her. You didn't know. But yes, that's why she turned away. She felt disrespected. Can you teach me to apologize? In her language? Jiwoo smiled. I can teach you a few phrases. But Captain, I think she already knows you didn't mean harm. The way she shared that music with you tonight, that was forgiveness. 2 days later, a new ship arrived from Earth. The Victory, commanded by Admiral Yang Heun, was larger and more heavily armed than the Infinite Horizon. Heun was known for her strict interpretation of orders and her belief that humanity's survival required strength above all else. Her first communication with Taman was direct. Captain Lee, we're here to secure the alien vessel and its occupant. Prepare to transfer command of the situation to me. Taman felt something cold settle in his chest. He looked out at the palace ship, at the gardens where Yura tended her crystal plants, at the throne room where she stood alone with her grief. Understood, Admiral, he said, but I request permission to remain involved in the situation. Denied. You're too close to it, Captain. I've read your reports. You've developed an inappropriate attachment to the alien. She has a name, Taman said quietly. Yura. She's a resource, Hayon replied. And resources must be secured for humanity's benefit. Hayon out. The communication ended. Nari, who had been on the bridge during the exchange, looked at Taman with concern. What are you going to do? My duty, Taman said. But he wasn't sure anymore what that meant. Admiral Yang Hayun came aboard the palace ship with a full security detail. She was a tall woman with gray streaks in her hair and eyes that had seen too many conflicts. She looked at the crystal gardens with appreciation, but it was the appreciation of someone appraising valuable property, not admiring art. Yura stood in her throne room, waiting. She wore her ceremonial armor again, and Taman realized it was her way of preparing for something difficult. She knew somehow that things were about to change. Princess Yura, Hayon said, speaking slowly and clearly as if volume would somehow translate her words. I am Admiral Yang Hayun of Earth Command. We are here to help you. Jiwoo, standing nearby, began translating into the fragments of Velian she had learned. Yura listened, her face expressionless, then responded in her musical language. She says she understands you are a leader. Jiwoo translated carefully. She asks what kind of help you offer. We can bring her to Earth, give her safety, resources, everything she needs. In exchange, she shares her people's knowledge with us, Jiwoo translated. Yura's response was longer this time, more complex, she says. Jiwoo began, then paused, checking her translation device. She says knowledge freely given is a gift. Knowledge taken under pressure is theft. She asks what you are offering. Hayon's expression hardened. Tell her we don't have time for philosophical debates. There are threats in this universe. We need to be prepared. Before Jiwoo could translate, Yura spoke again, and this time she spoke in broken but understandable human language. I understand. Your words. I learn, I listen. You want my people's gifts. But you do not trust me. You see, thing, not person. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Yura, shocked that she could speak their language. You understand us? Ian asked. Some, enough. Yura's pronunciation was strange, musical, but clear. Captain Taman shows respect, shows sharing. You show taking. Hayon turned to Taman. You've been teaching her our language? No, Taman said. She learned by listening. By watching us, Dr. Park Minnow stepped forward, excited. This is incredible. The learning capacity, the speed of adaptation. Princess Yura, I've been studying the plague that killed your people. I think I might have found something. Yura's attention shifted to him immediately. Found a cure, or at least a treatment. Your people's biology is different from ours, but the plague was a virus. We have experience with viruses. If I had more time, more samples, I think I could create something that would have saved them. Yura moved toward Minho, her movements suddenly urgent. You can heal? The poison? The plague, yes. I mean, I can't help them now. I'm sorry. But if there are others, if any Velians survived somewhere else, we could help them. Yura placed her hand on Minho's shoulder. It was the first time she had voluntarily touched any of them. Thank you, she said simply. Thank you. For caring. Hayon watched this exchange with calculation in her eyes. Dr. Park, you'll continue your research on Earth. Princess, you'll come with us. Your ship will be towed back for study. No, Yura said. Excuse me. No. Yura stood straighter, and despite being in a room full of armed humans, she was clearly in command. This is my home. My people's tomb. You will not take it. We're offering you protection, Hayon insisted. You offer a cage, Yura replied. Her human language was getting better by the minute, as if speaking it unlocked something in her. I have seen your data transmissions, your entertainment, your history. I know what you do to those you call other. You study them. You control them. You fear them. That's not fair, Taman said quietly. We're not all like that. Yura looked at him, and her expression softened slightly. No, not all. You, Captain Taman, you are different. You share music. You sit in silence. You understand? Loneliness. She turned back to Heian. But you, Admiral, you understand only strength. Before Heian could respond, alarms blared throughout both ships. Kim Nari's voice came over the communication system, urgent and frightened. Captain Admiral, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting 3 ships approaching. They're not human, and they're not Velian. Everyone rushed to the bridge of the infinite horizon. The view screen showed 3 vessels, each one dark and angular, covered in what looked like black metal that seemed to absorb light. They moved with purpose, heading directly toward the palace ship. Identification? Heian demanded. Unknown, Nari reported. But Captain, they're scanning us. Active targeting systems are locking on. Yura had followed them to the bridge. When she saw the ships on the view screen, her face went pale, and she spoke a single word in her language. Jiwoo didn't need to translate the emotion behind it. It was terror. Devourers, Yura said in human language. They come, they always come. What are devourers? Taemin asked. Yura's hands were shaking. Machines. Old machines, they eat civilizations. They find life and they consume it. Take knowledge. Take technology. Destroy what remains. The plague, Minho said suddenly. It wasn't natural, was it? Yura shook her head. We fled, my people fled. The devourers chased us. We used a weapon, a biological weapon, to stop them from taking our knowledge. We killed ourselves to save others. The magnitude of that sacrifice hit everyone in the room. An entire civilization had chosen death over allowing their knowledge to fall into the wrong hands. Why didn't you die? Heian asked, not unkindly. I was protected. Royal blood has immunity. I was meant to survive, to carry memory, to warn others. Yura looked at them with desperate eyes. You must run. You must leave. They will find Earth if they take this ship's navigation data. We're not leaving you, Taemin said. You must. I will. I will destroy ship, destroy data, but you must go. Heian was already giving orders. Battle stations. Power up all weapons. Prepare for combat. Admiral, we can't fight those things, Nari protested. Look at them. They're massive. We're human, Heian said firmly. We don't run from fights. We adapt, we survive. That's what we do. Yura stared at Heian as if seeing her clearly for the first time. You will fight? For me, you do not. Trust me. You wanted to take my home. I still want to take your technology, Heian admitted. But I'll be damned if I let some machines have it instead. And yes, Princess, we'll fight for you. Because you're right. We humans understand strength. But we also understand something else. We don't abandon people in need. The Devourer ships were getting closer. On the view screen, details became visible. They were covered in what looked like scars, marks from countless battles. Parts of other ships had been grafted onto their hulls, trophies from civilizations they had consumed. Princess Yura, Taemin said, can your ship fight? Yes, but it is damaged, weak. Then we combine our strengths, human and Velian together. Yura looked between Taemin and Heian. Something shifted in her expression, a decision being made. I can give you access to weapons, old weapons. But there is cost. What cost? Heian asked. The palace ship must be destroyed after. Cannot let devourers have it. Cannot let them find Earth. Taemin felt his chest tighten. The gardens. The throne room. The last remnant of an entire civilization. All of it would be gone. Do it, Heian ordered. Yura moved to a console and began entering commands. Her fingers flew over the controls and data streamed to the human ships. Nari gasped as information flooded her systems. Captain, I'm seeing weapon specifications, energy systems, shield technology. This is incredible. Can you implement it? Heian demanded. In minutes? No, but I can activate some of it. The palace ship's weapons can be slaved to our targeting systems. Then do it, Heian said. She turned to Yura. Princess, you'll stay here on the infinite horizon. If this goes bad, we'll evacuate you. I should fight, Yura protested. No, Taemin said gently. You've fought enough. You've sacrificed everything. Let us fight for you now. That's what humans do. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Yura looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She took his hand in hers. Her skin was warm and smooth, slightly luminescent. Thank you, she said, for seeing me, not as thing, as person. The Devourer ships opened fire. The battle had begun, and humanity was fighting its first war for an alien species. Not for technology, not for power, but because it was the right thing to do. The first Devourer strike hit the Victory's shields and sent the ship spinning. Alarms screamed across all channels. On the bridge of the infinite horizon, Taman gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered from a near miss. "Return fire." Heian's voice came through the communication system. All weapons full spread. Human missiles and energy weapons lanced out toward the Devourer ships, some hit sparking against the dark hulls, but most were intercepted by defense systems that moved faster than anything the humans had seen before. "They're too fast," Nari reported, her voice tight with stress. "Their targeting computers are predicting our firing patterns." Yura stood near Taman, watching the battle with wide eyes. She spoke urgently to Jiwoo, who was trying to keep up with the translation. "She says the Devourers learn," Jiwoo called out. "Every shot we fire, they analyze. They adapt. We can't use the same tactic twice." "Then we improvise," Taman said. "That's the one thing machines can't predict. Human chaos." He opened a channel to Heian. "Admiral, stop using automated firing solutions. Switch to manual. Let the gunners shoot on instinct." "That's insane," Heian replied. "Exactly. That's why it'll work." There was a pause. Then Heian laughed, a sharp bark of sound. "All ships, you heard the captain. Manual targeting only. Gunners, trust your gut. Fire when it feels right, not when the computer tells you." The pattern of fire from the human ships became erratic, unpredictable. The Devourer's perfect defense systems began missing interceptions. Several shots got through, scoring hits on the dark hulls, but the Devourers were still winning. There were 3 of them and only 2 human ships. The Palace ship's weapons had come online, controlled by Nari's jury-rigged interface, but Yura's ship had been without maintenance for months. Systems were failing. "Palace ship shields at 40%, Nari reported. "Captain, it can't take much more." Yura grabbed Taman's arm. "I must go back. To my ship, I can do what you cannot." "It's too dangerous," Taman said. "It is my ship, my people, my responsibility." Yura's eyes held fierce determination. "Please let me fight. Let me be—" More than victim, Taman understood. She needed this. After months of being the helpless survivor, she needed to be the princess who defended her realm one final time. "Beck Minjae," Taman called to his second-in-command. "Take a team and escort Princess Yura back to her ship. Keep her safe." "Yes, sir." Yura squeezed Taman's hand once before leaving the bridge. In her eyes was something new. Not just gratitude, but hope. On the Palace ship, Yura moved with purpose through the corridors she knew by heart. Minjae and his team struggled to keep up with her long strides. She reached the central control chamber, a spherical room where Velian technology interfaced directly with the pilot's mind. "This is incredible," one of the security officers breathed, looking at the alien systems. Yura was already connecting herself to the ship's systems through crystalline interfaces that extended from the walls. They attached to points on her armor, and her eyes began to glow with inner light. "Princess, what are you doing?" Minjae asked. "Becoming one with ship," Yura said, her voice distant. "Velian pilots merge with vessels. Think and ship thinks. Feel and ship feels." On the infinite horizon's view screen, the Palace ship suddenly came alive. Its movements became fluid, graceful, no longer the sluggish drifting of a damaged vessel. It spun between the Devourer ships, its weapons firing with precision that no computer could match. "She's flying it herself," Nari said in awe. "She's not using the navigation systems. She is the ship." The tide of battle shifted. With Yura piloting the Palace ship directly, the combined human-Velian force became more effective. They worked together, the human ships drawing fire while Yura's ship struck from unexpected angles, but the Devourers adapted. They changed tactics, focusing all their firepower on the Palace ship. They had analyzed the situation and identified the greatest threat. "They're targeting Yura," Taman said. "Heian, we need to protect her." "I'm on it." The Victory and Infinite Horizon moved to shield the Palace ship, taking hits meant for Yura. The Victory's shields were failing. Sparks flew from damaged systems. In the Palace ship's control chamber, Yura felt every hit as if it were striking her own body. The ship was dying, and she was dying with it. But she couldn't stop. Not yet. She dove the Palace ship toward one of the Devourer vessels in a maneuver that defied physics. At the last second, she rolled and fired all weapons at point-blank range. The Devourer's hull ruptured and atmosphere vented into space. It began listing, damaged but not destroyed. 2 Devourers remained, and they were coordinating their attacks. The human ships were running low on ammunition and power. Nari's voice was hoarse from calling out damage reports. "Captain, we can't sustain this much longer." Taman knew she was right. They were going to lose. Unless someone did something desperate. Yura had the same thought. Through the connection with her ship, she accessed the palace ship's navigation logs, the very data the Devourers wanted, the location of every Valian world. The routes they had traveled, and somewhere in those routes the connection to Earth's location. She knew what she had to do. "Captain Taman," her voice came through the communication system, sad but certain. "I am sorry, I must do this thing." "Yura, what are you doing?" "What my people did. What we should have done from beginning." The palace ship began moving away from the battle, accelerating toward the Devourer ships. "I am honored to know humans. You are strange. You are beautiful in your chaos. You fight for others, not for gain. This is what civilization should be." "Yura, no." Taman was already running toward the airlock. "Minji, get everyone off that ship now." On the palace ship, Minji and his team were trying to disconnect Yura from the systems, but the crystalline interfaces had locked in place. She was part of the ship now. "Go," Yura told them. "Please, I cannot disconnect. Ship will not let me. Is damaged, is dying. We die together." "Princess, we can find another way," Minji pleaded. "No time. Please tell Captain Taman." Yura's voice caught, emotion breaking through her formal speech. "Tell him. Beauty is not in what we look like. Beauty is in what we choose. I choose this. I choose to protect." Minji made the hardest decision of his life. He grabbed his team and ran for the airlock. Behind them, Yura watched them go, tears running down her luminescent face. The palace ship, with its last princess merged into its systems, accelerated toward the 2 remaining Devourer vessels. They tried to evade, but Yura knew their patterns now. She had been studying them throughout the battle. She had learned, adapted just as humans had. The Devourers opened fire with everything they had. The palace ship's shields flared and failed. Hull breaches appeared throughout the vessel. The crystal gardens shattered. The throne room cracked and vented atmosphere. Yura felt it all, felt her home dying around her. But she didn't stop. The palace ship struck the first Devourer at full speed. The impact was catastrophic. Both vessels erupted in a bloom of fire and debris that lit up space like a newborn star. The explosion caught the second Devourer, crippling it. On the Infinite Horizons bridge, Taman watched in horror as the beautiful crystalline palace, the last remnant of an entire civilization, destroyed itself and its enemies. "No," he whispered. "Yura." But then Nari shouted, "Captain! I'm reading an escape pod. It launched just before impact." On the view screen, a small crystalline craft tumbled through space, scarred but intact. It was broadcasting a distress signal. "Get her," Heian ordered. "Get her now." The Infinite Horizon raced toward the pod while the Victory finished off the crippled Devourer with concentrated fire. The third Devourer, badly damaged from Yura's earlier attack, calculated its odds and retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed. They had won. Humanity had fought its first battle against a greater threat and survived. Taman was waiting in the docking bay when they brought the escape pod in. It opened with a hiss of alien atmosphere, and Yura stumbled out, no longer glowing, her armor cracked and damaged. She saw Taman and nearly collapsed. He caught her, supporting her weight. "You were supposed to die," she said weakly. "It was supposed to be only me." "You were supposed to trust us to protect you," Taman replied. "We're stubborn that way. We don't let people sacrifice themselves if we can help it. I destroyed everything, my home, my people's last memorial." "No," Taman said firmly. "You saved everything. You saved us. You saved Earth. You saved whatever other species the Devourers would have found next." Yura looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "I am alone now. Truly alone." "No," Taman said. "You're not." "You have us, if you'll accept us." The medical bay of the Infinite Horizon became Yura's temporary home. Dr. Park Minho worked carefully to treat her injuries while learning about Velian biology firsthand. She had burns from the ship's failing systems, broken bones from the escape pod's rough ejection, and something deeper that no medicine could fix. She had lost everything. Taman visited her every day, bringing small things. Human books, though she couldn't read them yet. Music, which she could understand without words. Sometimes just his presence, sitting in silence while she stared at the ceiling. On the 5th day she spoke. "Why do you come here?" she asked. Her human language had improved dramatically, though her accent remained musical and strange. "Because you're alone," Taman replied simply, "and nobody should be alone. I am the last of my kind. Alone is what I am. You're the last Velian, yes, but you don't have to be alone." Taman pulled up a chair. "On Earth we have a concept. Found family. People who aren't related by blood but choose to be family anyway." Yura turned her head to look at him. "You would be my family? A human and a Velian, if you want." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I judged you poorly. When you first saw me, you called me beautiful. In my culture, this was insult. But now I understand. You were not reducing me to appearance. You were expressing wonder. Humans do this. You feel deeply and express immediately. I'm sorry I insulted you. Do not be sorry. I am sorry. I was cold. Distant. I was mourning, yes, but I was also afraid. Afraid to connect because connection means loss. And I have lost so much already. Connection also means gain, Taman said. You gain friendship, support, love if you're lucky." Yura reached out and took his hand, the same gesture she had made before the battle. "I think I am lucky. Despite everything, I'm lucky." News of the battle reached Earth 3 months later, and the response was immediate. Earth Command wanted Yura brought to Earth, wanted every detail of Velian technology, wanted to prepare for the Devourer threat. But this time the orders were different. Yura was to be treated as a diplomatic guest, not a specimen, a refugee under human protection. Admiral Hayan had included a personal note in her report. Princess Yura sacrificed her home to save humanity. We owe her everything. She will be treated with the respect and honor she deserves, or I will personally ensure that those who disrespect her face consequences. The journey back to Earth took months. During that time, Yura became part of the crew. She worked with Nari to document Velian technology, explaining not just how it worked but why it was designed that way. She helped Minho synthesize the plague cure, ensuring that if any Velians had survived somewhere in the galaxy, they could be saved. She taught Jiwoo the complete Velian language, and together they began translating the cultural records she had saved in her escape pod's databanks. Poetry, music, philosophy, history, the entire soul of a civilization preserved in digital form. And she spent time with Taman, learning what it meant to be human. She tried human food and found some of it delicious and some of it terrible. She watched human movies and laughed at the parts that were supposed to be funny, even though humor didn't always translate. She learned to read human expressions, human body language, human emotions. "You are so chaotic," she told him one evening as they sat in the observation deck, watching stars stream past as the ship traveled faster than light. "Humans feel everything so intensely. Joy, anger, fear, love. You feel it all at maximum volume. Is that bad?" Taman asked. "No, it is beautiful. My people were controlled, measured. We felt emotions, but we managed them, contained them. We created beauty, but it was careful beauty, planned beauty." She gestured to the stars. "You create chaos beauty. You feel first and think second. It is terrifying and wonderful. What will you do when we reach Earth?" Yura was quiet. "I do not know. I will help prepare humanity for the Devourers. That is my responsibility. But after, I am a princess with no kingdom, a teacher with no students, a survivor with no home. You could build a new home. With us," she looked at him. "You would want that. A strange alien living among humans? We've had strange humans living among humans for our entire history. I think we can handle one alien." Taman smiled. "Besides, you're not that strange. A little tall, a little glowy, but otherwise fairly normal." Yura laughed, a sound like wind chimes. It was the first time she had truly laughed since they found her. "Fairly normal. I will remember you said that." When they finally reached Earth, the reception was overwhelming. Media from every nation wanted to interview Yura. Scientists wanted to study with her, not on her. Politicians wanted her advice on defense strategies. Children wanted to meet a real alien princess. Through it all, Yura remained graceful but overwhelmed. She gave one public statement, carefully prepared with Jiwoo's help, speaking in clear but accented human language. "I am Yura, last of the Velian people. My civilization is gone, but its memory remains. I share this memory with humanity not because I must, but because I choose to. You saved me when you could have taken from me. You fought for me when you could have run. You showed me that beauty exists not in perfection, but in the choice to be kind when cruelty would be easier. I will help you prepare for the threats that exist in this universe. But more than that, I will learn from you. Because humanity has something my people lost. You have the courage to feel, to connect, to hope even when hope seems foolish. This is your strength. Never lose it. The speech was broadcast across Earth and human colonies. Yura became a symbol, but more than that, she became a person. Not a curiosity or a resource, but a refugee who had found a home. 3 years passed. Earth and human colonies fortified themselves against the Devourer threat, using Velian technology adapted by human ingenuity. 50 worlds prepared for a war that might never come, but would find them ready if it did. Yura worked with Earth's Defense Council, sharing everything she knew about the Devourers. But she also lived. She found an apartment in the city where Earth's Space Command was based. She made friends among the humans who worked with her. She learned to cook human food badly. She adopted a cat, which fascinated her endlessly. And she spent time with Taman, who had been promoted but requested to stay on exploration duty. They met when his missions brought him back to Earth, and they talked about everything and nothing. One evening, they returned to the place where it all began, the observation deck of the Infinite Horizon, now docked for maintenance. They stood before the stars just as they had years ago. Do you miss them? Taman asked. Your people? Every day, Yura replied. But the pain is different now. It is not sharp and bleeding. It is soft and sad, like old music that makes you cry, but you listen anyway because it is beautiful. I learned something in your language, Taman said. He spoke carefully in Velian, the words he had practiced with Jiwoo. Your beauty was not in your appearance, but in your sacrifice. Yura's eyes widened. It was the proper way to compliment Velian royalty, acknowledging character over form. You learned this for me? I wanted to do it right this time. Yura turned to face him fully, not turning away as she had the first time. And your beauty, she said in human language, is in your capacity to see beyond fear. Your people are young, strange, and chaotic, but you have something my civilization lost. You have the courage to choose hope when logic demands despair. What do we do now? Taman asked. We prepare for war, Yura said, and we remember why we fight. For the gardens that can never bloom again, for the songs that will never be sung, and for the new ones we will create together. She took his hand, the gesture that had become their connection. Human and Velian, different in so many ways, but alike in what mattered. I want to show you something, Yura said. She led him to a different part of the ship, to a cargo bay that had been converted into a workspace. Inside, crystal plants grew in carefully tended beds. They were the same type that had grown in the palace ship's gardens, saved from the escape pod's data and regrown using human and Velian technology combined. But among the crystal plants, earth roses grew, red and white and yellow, their organic petals stark against the crystalline structures around them. I am learning human gardening, Yura explained. It is chaotic. Earth plants do not follow rules. They grow wild. They die and seed and grow again. Very different from Velian plants, which grow in perfect patterns. They're beautiful together, Taman said. Yes. Different, but beautiful. Yura knelt among the plants. This is what I want to build. A garden where different things grow together. Where Velian memory and human hope create something new, something neither of us could make alone. A new beginning, Taman said. Yes. Not forgetting what was lost, but not trapped by it either. Yura looked up at him. I am not just the last of my people anymore. I am also the first of something new. A Velian who chose to live with humans, to learn from them, to build with them. Taman knelt beside her among the impossible garden. You know, when I first saw you, I thought you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I turned away because I thought you saw only my appearance. But now? Yura smiled, an expression she had learned from humans, though it looked strange and wonderful on her alien features. Now I understand. You saw not what I looked like, but what I could be. You saw possibility. You saw hope. That is what humans do. You see potential,